Thank you for tuning in. This is the Rice Crypto Show, and I'm your host, Rice. And in today's episode, I'm interviewing Sandeep Nailwal. He is one of the co-founders and the chief operation officer for the Matic Network. Now make sure you subscribed, hit that like button, and smash that notification bell, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's guest on the Rise Crypto Show is Sandeep Nailwal, and he is one of the co-founders and the chief operation officer for the Matic Network. Sandeep, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. How you doing today?
Thanks. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me here, and I'm so happy to be presenting in front of your community.
Awesome.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And I appreciate your time. And you're in India, so I say day, but really it's nighttime for you. So scheduling interviews with people who are on the other side of the world isn't always the easiest thing. But so I do appreciate you accommodating me and getting this thing worked out. So the first thing that I like to ask people before we get into what the projects that we're interviewing about is, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, Sandeep, and how you got involved in cryptocurrency?
Yeah. So basically, I'm a computer science engineer, and after doing my computer science engineering, I worked with a software firm for like 2 years. After that, I did my management in technology, and and then I worked for Deloitte for a brief amount of time. After that, I was the CTO of e-commerce of a e-commerce, which was a small division of a $4 billion company in India called Wellspun Group. So I was the CTO for the e-commerce, not the whole Wellspun this thing for the company. And then post that, I set up their basic infrastructure and everything for the e-commerce and all. And that was the time when e-commerce was at boom. So I raised a small amount of money, and then I started something called Scope Weaver, which is like a B2B marketplace for services, kind of like the Alibaba for Indian services, like Alibaba is for Chinese manufacturing providers. And so I did that for like around 1.5 years, and the business was going well, but it was not scaling that much. And since my early childhood, I have been like obsessed with building big business. Like I just don't want to do a small business, and where some people have motivations like self-dependent and things like that. I'm not really into those interests. My interest is to build a large business somewhere, exponentially see and experience a exponentially growing business sometimes. So my business was not scaling up, and I thought that okay, I maybe want to go into high tech technology business, and I wanted to code myself. So I started because I used to be a programmer before. So I started learning about artificial intelligence and machine learning for some time. Realized that there was a lot of math involved, and it would require almost like a academic kind of pursuance for some time, at least 1.5 years, which was not the time I had. I thought that I'll burn out my motivation in that. So, and then during that time, this is like around 2016, early 2016, and also this was like really, Bitcoin was at that time was making some noises, and I thought that okay, let me give it a try, because I had read about Bitcoin, far back, like in 2013. I thought that okay, let me you know see what exactly is this noise about, and if this still staying right. And then I was reading the mastering Bitcoin, the master book of blockchain, like from Andreas Antonopoulos.
A great
And
book, yeah.
uh, so I within like first 4 or 5 chapters, I realized that dude, this is something big, and this is what exactly I was looking for. And kind of it was instant, like it was very very amply clear to me that I want to do something in this space. And especially coming out from India, it made a lot of sense. I'm like a very patriotic Indian, and I feel that in India, a lot of things can be solved. Poverty and problems that we face here in India can be solved using this, because we have a very very messy and kind of a huge, like we are the biggest democracy in the world, right? And blockchains, I believe that can solve a lot of these things. So I ventured into that. I initially left, closed down my existing business, and then started programming again. I took almost 2 to 3 months full programming break, and then from there I came back, and then I started doing some consulting work initially, freelancing and this things like that. And then ICO boom came in, right? And then again that consulting business suddenly again grew into a decent sized business. But then I realized that these are still services, and I don't want to remain in services. And in the meanwhile, because I was very active in the Indian blockchain community, I was already connected to my current co-founders, and my other co-founder Jayanti, who's the programmer, kind of this thing. So he had built a prototype for Plasma. He comes from the core Plasma implementers group, and I thought that this looks like something which can be really scaled up and can have a big impact. And then after a few deliberations, we decided that okay, me, him, and some one other friend of ours, we'll join hands and create this thing. So we started Matic. So yeah,
Sweet.
sorry if that was too long.
No, no, that was perfect. I mean, I'd like to get a little bit of an overview of who I'm talking to, so people can get an idea, and then it gives a little bit of a background of how how you got involved in crypto, and then why you're doing what you're doing now. So you started the Matic Network with a couple of your friends in India. So let's
Yeah.
talk about Matic. If you were to give like kind of a quick pitch, like an elevator pitch of what Matic is, how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, so basically the biggest problems with blockchain that they are not able to go for mass adoption is the scalability, which involves slow transactions, then low throughput. Slow transactions means Bitcoin transaction takes like 7 minutes, Ethereum takes around 30 to 40 30 seconds, like 15 to 20 seconds for one confirmation, and if you have to wait, it takes much more time than that for more confirmations. And then the gas fees, that means the cost to do a transactions are very high. So but these blockchains are very stable, decentralized, and secure. And what Matic Network is, that Matic Network is a layer 2 scaling platform, like layer 2 scaling mechanism on top of blockchain, which actually takes a lot of your transactions onto the sidechain. You can do it at a much faster pace, and with much more convenience. And then whenever you want to bring your assets or anything back, you can bring them back to Ethereum. So the security is still provided by the Ethereum, but you get a faster mechanism, secured, fast, and decentralized mechanism to do faster transaction. For a very layman person, you can think of it like something like a Venmo, especially like US people. You can think of it like a Venmo, where where you have money in your bank, you take it to Venmo, like deposit some money from your bank into Venmo, and then can pay at a much faster pace to the restaurants, to your friends, and split bills and things like that. And whenever you want that money back to your bank, you can bring it back. So in a very simple terms, you can think of it like that, like layer 2. So Venmo would be a layer 2 on bank. So similarly, Matic Network is a layer 2 on Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah, that's why I did want to make sure we specified that this is for the Ethereum blockchain, that you guys are working on scaling issues for blockchain and side chains. So is Matic itself, is it an ERC20 token, or is it its own blockchain that's a side chain that
So it's a
runs?
ERC20 token, and then even with the mainnet. So since we are a layer 2, so this ERC20 token can move to and fro between the various between Ethereum and Matic mainnet. So it will always be an ERC20.
Okay. Okay, that's very cool. And so, you mentioned earlier the Plasma framework. So one of the creators, one of the co-founders of Matic was working on the Plasma framework originally.
Yep. So Plasma framework. So we are the participants in the Plasma group, and our my co-founder Jayanti, he was also a significant contributor in the Plasma group, and he was the one who actually built the first ever implementation of Plasma MVP. So yeah, from there only we extended the Matrix design, and today Matic follows the Plasma Mode VP design, Mode VP specification. Yeah.
So, and that's a little bit different than what the Ethereum blockchain is running itself, correct?
No, so Ethereum is a public blockchain, and they are not building an official, Ethereum Plasma, right? There's no official Ethereum layer 2, right? Ethereum Foundation per se is focused on Ethereum 2.0. So yeah, so there's nothing like Ethereum is building something and we are building something else.
So in addition to having instant blockchain transactions, what kind of things are you guys trying to do? I've heard the term DApp chain being used, things to that effect. Do you want to elaborate on some of the other use cases of what the Matic network is doing aside from instant transactions?
Yeah. So when we say transaction, so one of the biggest strength of Matic is that you don't only get to do value transfers on the sidechain, you can actually run dApps also. So, and the other thing is that this is not a dApp chain kind of model. So to give the viewers a brief idea, so dApp chains are where there are some solutions which allow like for example, very famous example is Cosmos, where you can build your own blockchain. Like each dApp builds their own blockchain, and we kind of don't believe in that future, because each dApp developer, when he's starting out, it's very difficult for him to build his own blockchain and then manage the manage the
You're fine.
infrastructure around it and things like that, right? So with Matic, we have a public blockchain, just like Ethereum, and that public blockchain can be used by any developer. They can come in and then simply deploy their applications, and they don't need to worry about the infrastructure. So that's the brief model over there. And so basically, one more thing is that to specify this once again, that we don't do only the value transfers. We have a EVM on the sidechain, which means that you can run smart contracts on the sidechain. And to be more technically precise for technically oriented people, so the asset transfers are fully backed by Plasma. The generic transactions are supported by the POS chain, and if there are big enough value transfers or value accruals in some particular different kind of arbitrary transactions, you can write predicates to handle them on the main chain.
Okay, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, like I've been trying to do a little bit of research, but like I said before we started the interview, I'm trying to do more organic, kind of giving an overview of products and then asking people questions so that I can get a better understanding. Do you want to talk a little bit about the security aspects and how the proof of stake system is coming in and play with that?
Yeah, so basically, one of the biggest reason is that our blockchain solution is like layer 2 solution is getting more traction than the other layer 2 that may have been attempted before, is the security and decentralization aspect of it. So we don't believe that that it's very easy to build a sidechain, right? But it's very difficult to build a decentralized and verifiable sidechain. So on Matic, you can, with what Plasma ensures is that the ownerships of the asset is still defined by the Ethereum main chain itself. That means that even if you take, let's say you take $1 million on the sidechain and you stop believing in the sidechain, that the validators are acting in good faith and they are actually following the consensus mechanism, you can actually go to Ethereum main chain and claim your withdrawals directly from Ethereum main chain. So that means the ownership of the assets is still defined by the Ethereum main chain. The second thing is that you can verify the transactions that are happening on the side chain on the main chain itself. That means that if there are any particular transactions wherein the side chain actors are, which are fairly decentralized in their own respect, but I'm not talking about that when I'm talking about Plasma. I'm saying that if they do some faulty transactions where the consensus rules are not followed, those can be verified on the main chain, Ethereum main chain itself, which we call fraud proofs. And since these people's, like we are a pure layer 2, that means the staking also happens on Ethereum main chain. So if they are found guilty of any wrongdoing or wrong kind of transactions, and somebody is able to prove it, and there are cryptographic security mechanisms to prove it, then their stakes are slashed. That means they have to pay a penalty, or they are completely slashed of their stake that they have put in. So basically, you can see that the security is still being driven by the Ethereum main chain itself, where Ethereum main chain is guiding the security, whatever is happening on the side chain. And then side chain actors are also, although a set of decentralized actors, but as a main chain owner of an asset or owner of a valuable on the main chain, you don't have to rely on completely their you don't have to be on the mercy of them. Your main guardian is still the Ethereum main chain, which is, maybe at par with Bitcoin in terms of its security and decentralization today.
That is awesome, man. And I appreciate you explaining it that way too. And looking at some other features as far as like some of the things you guys are doing with the side chains, I see the one-stop DeFi platform where you guys have multiple protocols enabling extensive decentralized finance applications. And obviously DeFi is a big thing right now. It's actually kind of one of the buzzwords in the industry. But looking also through some of the things that I saw was mentioning of a decentralized exchange and third-party applications that would include atomic swaps, which would be done via Matic smart contracts. You want to talk a little bit about the atomic swap smart contracts or some of the other smart contracts and maybe get into the DEX a little bit?
Yeah. So for example, we already have plasma swaps, which provide plasma guaranteed asset swaps on the sidechain. So that means that you can build DEXs which are 100 times or more than that faster than what you can build on Ethereum, while they would still be having security to the, which would be at the level of Ethereum itself, right? So that is one part. Then in terms of the atomic swaps, like these are actually the the items moving from one chain to another chain, like the direct swaps between multiple chains. And we are working on quite a few mechanisms wherein BTC, let's say, directly could be integrated with Matic chain, and people can have BTC in the form of a wrapped asset or a synthetic asset on the Ethereum main chain, uh, brought in via various mechanisms. So those are the things that we are working on, like trying to get some big assets directly onto Ethereum, onto Matic side chain, and where users can use them in a much faster and much secure manner. So that is also one part. Um, and then one more thing you said about, I think you mentioned about DeFi. So on DeFi, what we believe is that, with the extent of DeFi that has been becoming famous, the primary use cases are lending and borrowing also for DeFi, and for lending large amounts. So we don't believe that a $10,000 lending requires a side chain, because you can easily pay $50 for the transaction and wait for like 10-15 minutes. So for that, you don't need layer 2 scalability. But yeah, I mean, in future, we believe that there will be a lot of micro lending kind of scenarios where somebody is lending, let's say, $100, $200. Small loans are getting created and all that. So in those kind of micro finance kind of scenarios, you can use side chains. And also, if let's say DeFi becomes big enough where a large number of population, a large number of users are coming onto Ethereum main chain, and then where the doing normal transactions become very congested, then who knows, maybe for the normal DeFi lending and borrowing also, you may need some of these scaling mechanisms like layer 2.
Cool. And something else I just wanted to mention, we don't have to go into it, and I'll have links down below for everything that we're talking about in the interview, especially the Matic Network website, which is matic.network. But the lending and credit scoring platform I thought sounded really cool, and the things that you guys are working on with your open identity system, doing some identity issues, which I really dig on that. Before we get into kind of the tough questions, the next question I want to ask is, can you tell us a little bit about the roadmap of what's planned out for Matic? Like what do you guys have going on for the year 2020?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is what's up for us is the staking and the mainnet going live. So our staking games are currently on, and we believe that our mainnet will be live in and the final staking will be live in Q1 of next year. So that's going to be a very big time for us, where we'll do a lot of these activities. So those are kind of biggest thing. Plus, we have a lot of large scale projects which are building on Matic, which involves projects like Decentraland and a lot of big other big projects which are currently in the process of integrating. Plus, adoption wise, we are growing extremely fast. I think we would already be easily I think top 10 or top 15 platforms in terms of the number of applications building on us. So that way we are getting a lot of developer kind of love in terms of because of the simplicity of building on Matic. So that's kind of the those are some of the bigger scenarios for us which we are looking for in the next year.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I mean, you guys have done a great job as far as like your marketing, getting attention out. I mean, I was very familiar with what the Matic Network was creating, getting an idea. The name was out there. I kept looking, I look at charts, I look at prices and things, and you see the Matic Network getting gains even in bear markets, which was really nice to see. And you guys have been really open and transparent. And so the big elephant in the room that I'm sure people who are familiar with Matic is, I'm not sure if it was December the 10th, that would have been like 8 days ago, but you guys had like a 70% price drop. Now, before we get into it, I do want to say that from what I can tell from my research that Matic Network, that Matic has been one of the most successful IEOs period, and has definitely been the top one on the Binance launch pad. So do you want to kind of get into, because I don't know if you've done any interviews since this has occurred. Do you want to kind of get into what took place with that? Because I think it was like it was overnight, but I think it was like within an hour, it dropped like 66%. Sound, you muted. You're still muted.
Two
Hold on.
5-minute candles, like hardly 10 minutes. So 2 5-minute candles, and then
hey, Sandeep, you were muted for just a quick second. So just start that answer over if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I'm saying that it was around two large candles, like which were 5-minute candles, and within those 2 5-minute candles, that's around 10 minutes. The price fell down heavily, and there are many speculations. Many people, initially, because we were sleeping and there was no response from our team, and suddenly a large amount of people started coming into our Telegram group, and there was one Telegram admin active, and he thought that, oh, this is something bad happening. He actually muted the group for some time, and then in the meanwhile, he would have restarted the group again, and then somebody actually called me up in the morning. It was still very early morning, and we have a style of working, like we work like till 3:30 4 a.m. in the night, and then sleep. And I got this call at 7:30 or something, and my other co-founder Anurag was on the call, and he was like, dude, something has happened in the market. Just have a look at it. Like, there's a lot of furor about it in the market. And I was like I immediately opened my phone, and then I saw, oh shit, this is like 70% drop, and then everybody is crying about it. And when I went to Twitter, there were like more than 100 mentions to me, and I was like, dude, this is crazy. And then I started analyzing, and I realized that drop has happened, and then some people were trying to spread some sort of FUD. Somebody randomly clicked some pictures of the Ether scan, and so it's randomly claimed that, okay, the team has transferred 15% of the coins to the this thing, and they sold, like, the way, like, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Like, if you think about it, for a project like us, which is backed by Coinbase, which is one of the biggest, not one of the biggest, like the by far the most successful IEO on the space, having huge amount of adoption, and then we'll go to the market and then suddenly dump in 1 second, right? And like, we can, if some project has to do it, they can do it like slowly, right? If you ask this question, it's amply clear. And these people are saying this thing, so we actually went there, and then I refuted those claims and said that I am going to publish the detailed blog post over there, and then I published the proof. And then this guy simply says that, oh, I'm really sorry, I calculated 1 million token as 10 million tokens, right? And then that accounted as like 1% of like 0.1% to converted into 1% of the token moving in one go, right? So that's like huge. And then he apologized and all that, and then CZ and the Binance team, they did their own analysis, and they came out and in the support and saying that it's amply clear that Matic team has absolutely no role to play in this. And from there the things started slowing down, but the damage had happened, right? So Matic actually takes pride in being a community project, and the biggest concern for me as the marketing and partnerships and all these visibility and all that guy is that people and our Matic community thinks highly of Matic, and suddenly you wake up in the morning and in the night they were all very happy, they made like 200-300% returns on Matic, and then suddenly in the morning everybody shouting at you that team is dumping and all that. So
Yeah,
it was a
like
hard
you're
time,
evil.
but yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we turn into evil in one night. But then we did. I think we have been receiving a lot of support. On the most heartwarming thing was that on Twitter, almost every like a lot of partners, almost every partners of ours, and a lot of other projects in the space, they came out in the support. Whoever know us, because we go to all the hackathons, we support hackathons and all that. So people came in support of us, saying that they vouch for the integrity of my team and all. That was very heartwarming. I think we would have got at least 100 tweets from different people on that. And so slowly FUD was killed, but then definitely the damage had been done. The price went into a upward mode, into a downward mode, and then from there, like, I think that actually triggered the whole this slump into the market also. And since last 4 or 5 days, the market is constantly crashing down and down and down. Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean, I'll also mention too, it wasn't like it was an isolated incident. I believe, if I am not mistaken, Raven Coin and another one had went down. Not quite as significant in the percentage, but they Raven and there was another one that went down about the same time period. And it's not unusual for a coin to drop down in price because of just the volatility in the market. But a 70% drop within a 10-minute time period is definitely something that would freak people out. The fact that you guys were asleep and not responding,
Yeah.
it's crazy that people even wanted to assume that it was a pump and dump, because I mean, you guys have been very public about everything. You've been very transparent. You're creating a good platform. There's no reason for you guys to just like hit and run. So I think that was kind of stupid, but I really wanted to kind of get a little bit more perspective from you as to what happened. Now, this is something that I don't have a lot of familiarity with. I do some trading, but I don't mess with like any futures or anything like that. Is there any futures trading going on with Matic? And if so, is that possibility of what could have affected this?
Yeah. So I think one of the reasons later on when we analyze this, the reason that seems to be predominantly everyone agrees is the margin and the future positions. And even if this was a coordinated attack by some whales, they took advantage of the the fair market instruments like the Waro and the futures that are there. So Matic, like, even being a small market cap project, it is still very widespread, and the volumes on Matic have been really crazy. Like, it generally is the rank one. During the whole those 3-4 weeks, Matic was the rank one volume, like even more than Ethereum. If you think in the fundamentals way, it's a layer two on Ethereum, and it has more trading volume on than Ethereum, which is like $18 billion asset, especially on Binance and some other exchanges. So that was like really crazy. But I think that amazing bull run of 350% from the base of the rally also contributed to Matic becoming a target to these large whales. And I think what our analysis says is that, and we have verified it with many people also, is that these whales would have actually done a large amount of borrows on on the 5x borrows on Matic, on Binance and some other exchanges where the borrow was available, and they dump using the borrowed amount. Because, and I think on the spot markets also they were holding decently significant positions, so they dumped on the spot markets with using the borrow also plus their holdings, and plus they also took short positions in the future exchanges, and profited from that also. So it was basically we have the big movie, right, the Big Short, right? So something like that was executed.
Like the
Uh,
perfect storm. No, I get what you're saying. And speaking of The
yeah,
Big Short, that is a great movie. And if people have not seen that movie, I encourage people to watch that movie, because I think that we're kind of getting back in that economic time period that movie was set back in. So the 2008 crash that took place. But Sandeep, man, I really appreciate it. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover before we wrap the interview up?
Not really. I mean, I would just, as the closing comment, I would say that, I would just encourage all the Matic community members who are your community members also, to stay strong. And then the main thing is that Matic is, like, in terms of fundamentals, Matic is doing huge amount of progress. In terms of adoption, I think next year will be, star-studded for us. There will be huge amount of applications coming onto Matic, and the actual utility being developed on the Matic network. So stay tuned to that, and keep contributing to the Matic community. Yeah,
That's awesome, man. And again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being transparent and open with all the questions that I had, because obviously the elephant in the room with what happened with that 70% price drop was a big thing. And I know people wanted to kind of hear a little bit about it more so in like an interview than just kind of being in a Telegram group and things like that. So again, I'm going to have links down below so you guys can check out what the Matic Network is doing and stay tuned for what they're up to. If this is your first time ever checking out any of my content, I do encourage you to explore my channel. And if you like what I'm doing, you can support me by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. And as always, I encourage you to be the change by practicing change. And I love you all. Thank you for watching all the way through to the very end. Now, if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? And be sure to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my current content as it comes out. I do got to give a shout out to this month's Rice Crypto Show sponsors who make it possible for me to create content. Monarch, Presearch, and BlockFinX, which is a new exchange that's going to be launching soon. Going to have links down below so you can check out my sponsors. And again, much love.